All right, welcome to Action Island. We are presented by the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Brendan Glasheen, joined by Action Network contributors from our predictive analytics team, Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen, and Touchdown Show host, Gilles Gallant. We're getting set for Week 6, Thursday Night Football, a divisional matchup to kick off the week. The 1-4 Denver Broncos visit the 4-1 Kansas City Chiefs. KC has won 15 consecutive games against Denver. You got to go back to when Peyton Manning retired from the National Football League. This is the longest active winning streak by one team over another. Action Island is again presented by our friends at FanDuel. Get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll work our way around the island tonight. Best bets from each of the guys as each guest weighs in. The Island Council will come together. Can't promise any fire pit or anything like that. We'll vote on their favorite pick. Also, later in the show, stay tuned for Darren Rovell. He provides a market report for tonight's game. I'll lead off with the Giffinator, Nick Giffen, on the island, looking sharp, locked in. Nick, please present your best bets.
All right, so first bet, kicking it off here. I'm going to go to Courtland Sutton, and I'm going to take the alt receptions for him to have 4+, so 4 or more. I think this is a great buy low spot on Courtland Sutton. He had a 1-catch week last week versus the New York Jets, only 3 targets. And he's only had a 50% catch rate in the last 2 weeks. So that should eventually regress upward back towards, his career and season long averages, which are north of 58%. I think this is just a nice buy low spot here after 2 kind of down weeks. We have this game tonight. It's going to be windy, high winds, really gusty potentially as well, up to like 30-mile-an-hour gusts. And of the Broncos wide receivers so far this year, Courtland Sutton has the lowest ADOT of the starting wide receivers, average depth of target there. So I think that really helps in a windy game. There should be more shorter passes, and that means potentially more going Courtland Sutton's way. The Chiefs also have allowed the 9th most targets per game to wide receiver ones. And of course, Sutton is the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He has played the most snaps in this offense, even accounting for the game that Jerry Jeudy missed. And Sutton's target share has generally been higher against teams that blitz more. If you just plot a correlation there of targets per route run versus opponent blitz percentage, it's a pretty linear correlation so far this year. And Kansas City is the 5th heaviest blitz team in the league at this point this year. The Broncos are likely to be in a trailing game script. It's, the biggest they've been an underdog all year. So I really like Courtland Sutton alt line of 4+. There's an over 3.5 as well. And for some reason, the juice is different. So make sure you take that alt line of 4+.
Okay. All right. Courtland Sutton, as you said, looking for a bounce back. You mentioned the Jets game, 4 receptions total in his last 2 games after putting up at least 4 catches in each of the first 3 games for Denver. What's your second bet for us?
Yeah, so second one is going to be a little interesting. We're going to go with the first half Chiefs total points under 14.5 total points there for the first half. A lot of this is predicated off the fact that the Denver Broncos, they play painfully slow in the first half specifically. They're the 2nd slowest team in the first half in terms of seconds per snap prior to the 2-minute warning. And this is pretty much true regardless of if they're in a close game, if the Broncos are trailing by more than a touchdown, if they're ahead by more than a touchdown. And in the second half, the opposite is true. Pretty much regardless of the situation, Denver plays much faster in the second half, even when they've been leading. I know they've been trailing a lot at that 1-4 record, but even when they've been leading, they've been pretty fast in the second half. So the Chiefs kind of get a tempo down opponent here in the first half specifically. Also, the Chiefs' luck team total is at -9.2, right? We got luck totals where anything above 10 or below -10 correlates with an over or an under. And that's for the full game. Well, the Chiefs themselves are at -9.2, which almost pushes us past that -10 just with them. And most of this stems from Denver allowing way more than expected thanks to explosive plays. Russell Wilson took a safety, which is kind of unlucky there, which creates points that wouldn't normally be there. And an offensive fumble that the Jets last week returned for a touchdown. But the Chiefs also contribute to this a little bit. They have scored 8 points more than expected through the 5 games this year. Plus, we got the wind and, maybe a chance of wind, but more likely the wind going to force the Chiefs into potentially more shorter passes, eating up clock, also maybe more running. And if they do run, they're 5th in offensive pass DVOA, but just 14th in rush. So we could see a reduction in efficiency from the Chiefs as well.
Okay. Yeah. This reeks of like a get in, get out situation. Granted, they're at home, but the injury to Kelce is something else too that we have to monitor. Travis Kelce questionable, but it seems all indications are that he will play. All right, let's get the Island Council together. Koerner, Jill, pick your favorite bet from Nick Giffen. Let's get into it here. All right, Council, let's unite and come together. What do we got? Okay, couple of Suttons and a Chiefs under. Jill, you like Giffen's underplay. Explain yourself.
Yeah, I think the weather, I want to just put a disclaimer here. I like the Sutton pick too. I think just the weather is going to play a bigger part here in this game. And I think right now, just especially with the way that the Broncos pace has been, I like this bet a little bit more than the Sutton bet. I'm sorry.
Okay. Koerner, anything you'd like to add to Nick's analysis on Courtland Sutton over the alt over of 4 receptions?
I like both of these, but if I had to choose whether I want to invest in the Broncos offense or the Broncos defense, give me the offense all day. Plus, I like that we're being sneaky here and taking the alt market with the much better price. This is definitely the best price you can get anywhere. So I like that, Nick did some sleuthing to find that. So I got to go Sutton here.
Yeah, it feels like it checks more boxes where, you doubting Kansas City in any spot, no matter the short week. I mentioned the Kelce injury, young receivers still trying to get in sync with Patrick Mahomes. You can throw sidearm. Does the wind all that much matter? The game script potential is Nick laid out on Sutton. I like it. I like Sutton. So Sutton takes the cake, 2 out of 3. Let's move on to Gilles Gallant, Mr. Touchdown Man. And he's going that way for his first one. Give it to us.
Yeah, so we're going to take Jerry Jeudy for a touchdown at plus 250. And he's got 26 targets through 4 games. He is playing a little more in the slot than on the outside. And his target share has historically been higher when he does play in the slot. And outside receivers this year haven't had as much luck versus the Chiefs. 5 of the 6 passing touchdowns that the Chiefs have allowed this year have come from players in the slot. We just saw last week, Justin Jefferson wasn't really able to get free before he hurt his hamstring. Jordan Addison is the one who scored the touchdown for the Vikings. And with this bad weather, short throws, as Nick alluded to earlier, that's going to be the key. I think that will benefit Jeudy in that spot. The other touchdown that I'm looking at, though, is on the Chiefs side, Jerick McKinnon for an anytime touchdown. Look, I know he's not getting as many snaps these days with Pacheco emerging, and Pacheco does have more targets than him. But the Broncos, I think they could give up a lot of touchdowns to running backs today. 4 passing touchdowns that have been allowed to running backs this year. And McKinnon torched the Broncos last year. 12 catches, 17 targets. He had 4 receiving touchdowns. That was in that stretch where he had 8 touchdowns in 6 games. And the Broncos, I'm not really ready to jump off Broncos Island on their defense yet. Maybe we see a little bit of a regression here. I think they played them tough last year. If they keep it close, I think McKinnon's going to get a few red zone looks from Mahomes. So we have Jerick McKinnon on one side and Jerry Jeudy on the other.
Okay, very good. By the way, I see some folks in the chat weighing in. We've got a Kansas City resident weighing in on the weather, that it looks good. Temperatures in the 70s, and there are a chance of wind gusts today. I mean, it looks like mostly between 18 and 20 miles per hour as we approach kickoff. Nick and Koerner, the analytics team and the wacky host, let's come up with what we like most from Jill. council has assembled. We will try our best to pivot off Jill and reveal a touchdown winner. What do we got? Ooh, Glasheen, the host, is on an island himself. Well, I guess I'll weigh in first. Jerick McKinnon, to me, will be a guy that's out there, of course, in third down situations, especially by the goal line, as Jill mapped out. Perfect scenario, as Giffen highlighted, about the weather for small checkdowns. Jerick McKinnon just to pop out, catch a small pass, goal line spots, especially if the Chiefs move the ball effectively running the ball. It's a wrinkle they could throw in. I know they use Sky Moore in these situations at times. Kelsey, of course, is a threat, but I love the upside of Jerick McKinnon, especially when the Chiefs are deep in Denver territory and they might have to come up with something. If the run game, if Denver does adjust, they can go to the air on short throws to Jerick McKinnon. And I'd rather, as Koerner mentioned, I'd rather trust the better offense here than the Denver Broncos. That's what I got. Koerner, why don't you weigh in? Why do you like Jeudy over McKinnon?
Just like outside tonight, it should be a trailing game script where, the Broncos have to throw, but what's new? But, Jerry Jeudy, it looks like he's on the trade block. So what better time to showcase him than on Thursday Night Football? So I think that could earn him some extra looks, especially in the red zone. I'm sure Denver wants to have a good game to raise his trade value. So give me Jeudy all the way here.
And Giffen, why don't you add to that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I just look at the prices on these two, plus 250, plus 280, plus 290. It's, I know, shifting around here for Jerick McKinnon. But when they're that close, I'm just going to take the guy that's going to be on the field more, and that's going to be Jerry Jeudy. He's going to be on the field a ton more than Jerick McKinnon. And, the Chiefs really are not that great against the slot, as Gilles alluded to. It's the second straight year that, they've struggled against the slot. So give me Jerry Jeudy.
All right. Fair enough. Good stuff. All right. Last but not least, on the island, the council will come together momentarily. Sean Koerner, his triumphant return to our programming here at Action Network. Koerner, what do you have cooked up for Thursday Night Football?
So for my first one, I'm going with Kadarius Toney under 27.5 receiving yards. I gave this out earlier on Green Dot Daily at 29.5. I still love it at 27.5. But we've seen Toney really settle into a pretty defined role this year. He's going to run around on 35 to 40% of Mahomes dropbacks. He will be targeted heavily on those plays, but they will also be closer to the line of scrimmage. His 2.2 ADOT is the lowest among qualified wide receiver and tight ends this year. So he's essentially a pass-catching running back, which makes it tougher for him to clear this number, just given his limited playing time. So I'm projecting him closer to 22.5. And about a 62% chance he stays under this number of 27.5.
Okay. And what do you got for your second one that we can glean?
So for my second one, I'm going with Russell Wilson over 19.5 rushing yards. He's just scrambling at a higher rate this year. Last year, he scrambled 5% of his dropbacks. This year, it's up closer to 6.5%. And, the Chiefs have generated pressure at a very high rate, the fourth highest rate in the league. So that could force him out of the pocket, scramble even more here. Plus, we've been talking about the high winds. Even more reason for him to pull it down and run with it. And the Chiefs have, struggled to defend QB scrambles. They've allowed 8.1 rushing yards per scramble this year, which is the 9th highest. And he ran for 57 and 27 yards against them last year. So I just like this spot for Wilson to go over 19.5 rushing yards.
Okay, so a receiving prop and the quarterback, Russell Wilson, rushing over for tonight. Giffen, Gallant, Glasheen, the council assembles. Let's get to work. Okay, I think we can all agree before we reveal that these two picks kind of work together based on all the analysis we've provided so far. Why don't we reveal? Oh, boo. Like, I could have sworn one of you earlier mentioned or said that you were going to go with Russ, but I guess I'm by myself again. Russell Wilson has hit over this number 2 times. He ran a bunch last game against the Jets in a game in which the Jets led in the fourth quarter and Denver had to come from behind. This still feels like an operation in which Sean Payton has not completely captured what exactly he wants from Russell Wilson. They have been able to score points. And I know, and Nick, we've talked about this before in other shows. He has not been all that bad when you look at his box scores and just looking at his numbers from a completion percentage standpoint, passer rating. But I feel more comfortable with the Chiefs having a lead, or even if the game's close, if we like a lower scoring or Kansas City lead as the second half unfolds, that Russell Wilson is going to make magic happen with his legs. It's not a big ask. 20 yards. I think Sean Payton also likes to get creative, especially against a play caller at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I think they're going to utilize everything. They need to unload the playbook. Russell Wilson. I like the over. Why don't you? Well, now again, we don't necessarily believe that we don't like the other pick, but Giffen, why don't you tell us why you'd rather go the direction of Kadarius Toney?
Yeah, I was the one who fooled you there. I flip-flopped on him, so I'll take the blame for that. I do like Russ. I'm a big fan of his, and I do think he's gonna have to scramble a lot. But I'm gonna take Sean Koerner's primetime prop that he gave out initially because he's 8-1 on him this year. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Oh, I didn't realize that you gave that out earlier today. I'm a little behind. Well, what the heck? All right, fair enough. Jill, is that why you're doing it, or do you have more to add?
Well, I just think also the emergence of Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams potentially coming back, there's just less rushing opportunities for Russ. And I also just think Kadarius Toney is the most overrated player in the NFL.
Yeah, this reeks of, not necessarily Mahomes, but also Reed, the Patriots of the great Patriots days, where if there's a young receiver that's not catching on, they just bury him and they'll find somebody else. And I think Darren Rovell can actually shed some light on this because there's a specific player that is getting a lot of attention from the public. Let's turn to Darren Rovell for our market report for Week 6 Thursday Night Football, Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. Hi, Darren.
Well, Brendan, I guess for the first time in a Chiefs game in a while, we're not saying that Kelsey. It is Isaiah Pacheco. Top 3 props, FanDuel, Pacheco to score first TD plus 480, Pacheco to score anytime TD minus 135, and Rashee Rice over 32.5 receiving yards minus 110. I will talk about Kelsey a little bit. He is 13% of the total bets on anytime TD score, 17% of the money on FanDuel. And the splits on 65.5 receiving yards. Now, for a couple weeks, we've had, because of Taylor, he's going to go out and he's going to, as if it's like third grade gym class, and he's going to do it for her, and he's going to get the over receiving yards and receptions. Tonight, I think that kind of is stopped. It's not 80% of the bets. 69% of the bets are the over on 65.5 receiving yards. The bigger bet on Kelsey is over 6.5 receptions. 95% of the bets, 97% of the money is on the over.
Wow. Okay. So the reception's getting more love than the yardage total for Kelsey. Koerner, can I quickly ask you, with Rashee Rice getting some love from the people with the over, I'm imagining that gives you more confidence, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe because if he's not as involved, does that pave a way at all for Toney?
Yeah, I mean, they correlate. He saw his routes run rate start to go up in weeks 3 and 4, and then it just came crashing down last week. But he's the type of player, when he's on the field, he's seeing targets. So him getting extra playing time tonight, half of the dropbacks, will definitely help the Toney prop, because when he's on the field, he usually, takes some of those targets away from Toney.
Good point. The scheme they run, the sets they run, that should help. And then, Jill, my last one for you would be, does the public being all over Pacheco, especially his touchdown number, you are very consistent about this in terms of minus odds touchdown guys. Does this give you a little bit of a boost internally? Like, oh, okay, the public loves Pacheco. Does that make you feel a little better about McKinnon?
Not as much for this specific game. I will say for the calendar year of this season that right now they're actually hitting close to about 56%, where historically those hit around 47 to 48% after the calendar year. So I think for this, if anything, it's not really that much. This game is strictly a running game. I think you're going to see a lot of people on unders on passing yards for this game. So yeah, I'm not against anybody betting on Pacheco for a touchdown in this game.
Okay, very good. Let's now take as the council did. We're very fair, this council. We take the majority vote from each of the 3 votes. Each analyst gave 2 picks. We voted. We come out with 1 bet apiece. And here is our Action Island Week 6 Thursday Night Football Same Game Parlay. The payout, $10.57. Cortland Sutton, alternate receptions, 4+. Jerry Jeudy, anytime touchdown scorer, so we're staying away from McKinnon in this case, and Kadarius Toney, under 27.5 receiving yards. Well, it shows what I know because I was outvoted in 2 separate instances, but I would like, as my first time on Action Island, to throw a bonus bet your way to potentially uptick the oomph in this same game parlay, Nick Giffen. I'll ask you first. How do you feel about Isaiah Pacheco? Alternate rushing total, 100+ rushing yards, a 100-yard rushing game from Isaiah Pacheco in a windy, stormy game. I'm putting emphasis on stormy, but a windy game. Get in, get out, feed this guy 15 to 20 times. It's plus 188 at FanDuel.
Yeah, I like it. The alternate 100+, you know, I've seen some comments in the chat that, you know, it's maybe not going to be as windy. It's going to be windy. It's going to pick up. It's supposed to pick up by 7, 8 o'clock local time.
No, but Giffen, they're there. You know, that's why they're doubting you, because they're there. They feel the wind. What would you say to them?
But it's going to pick up later, and then there'll be gusts to 30, and it definitely can swirl around. So I think this is a good spot to feed the ground game. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs are heavily favored, and that could lead to a lot more opportunity for Pacheco. Denver's defense has been just a sieve in both the pass and the rush, allowing big plays. So I think Pacheco has the opportunity to break one and crack 100+ for sure.
Okay, he got there against the Jets in a closer game, as we know, when the Chiefs had a lead, but he picked up a lot of those yards when they were playing with the lead. The play calling actually got pretty conservative and honestly kind of odd from Andy Reid. So maybe I'm preferring that it's a closer, or at least the Chiefs build some sort of a lead. Jill, would you like to weigh in on my very sharp-minded pick?
I mean, if you're already seeing that touchdowns are going to be coming for Pacheco, I definitely think he can get to 100 yards. I think he's going to probably see 15 to 20 carries. But the reason why I liked McKinnon is more for that pass catching aspect. So, but I definitely think, especially if the Chiefs get a first half lead, you're going to see a lot of Pacheco carries in the second half. Could get you to that 100-yard spot.
All right, Koerner,
it correlates nicely with our other plays.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking about Koerner. This has got to correlate. Tony's going to be uninvolved. It's going to fade the public with Darren just revealed that the public's all over Kelsey. Just give it to Pacheco and get out of the way.
Exactly. And I was kind of saying on Green Dot Daily that I was a few yards under his rushing prop, but he has such a wide range of outcomes. It doesn't matter. So he's the type of player that is worth, you know, investing in a ceiling game. So yeah, like I can get behind this.
Okay. Excellent. And I was also, for the record, I was eyeing a kicker prop, and Nick Giffen quickly talked me down because you can't include that prop. I'm just giving Nick a hard time. You can't include that in the same game parlay. Another thing you can't include is I wanted to go Pacheco over his longest rush, which was up over 20 yards, but seeing how bad Denver is against the run, but you can't include that in the same game parlay. So this was the next best option. So this boosts the parlay to plus 35-21. Let's go. All right. That's going to do it. That's it for Action Island Week 6, Thursday Night Football. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We greatly appreciate you stopping by. For Nick Giffen, Gilles Gallant, Sean Koerner, find these guys in the Action app. They gave out plays they liked despite the fact they were outvoted, but they are on to something, I think. Find these guys individually in the free, award-winning Action Network app. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate that. And also, hit that like button if you enjoyed the show. I'm your host, Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for listening and watching Action Island, presented by FanDuel. We'll talk to you again for Sunday Night Football this coming weekend.